I'd like to introduce you to the margin perfect matrix, which is an anterior matrix 1.5 thousandths of an inch thick that is custom fitted to make perfect margins on all of your anterior direct composites. In this clear plastic container are a series of cards with the die-cut outline of the matrices on the card. Merely roll the corner of a matrix, free it from the card, tear it loose from the sides, and your matrix is ready to be custom shaped and placed in the patient's oral cavity. These matrices are an advancement over previous shapes. They are excellent for confining your direct composite resins and giving you perfect gingival margins. Now let's point out the landmarks on our MPM matrix and show how to shape it. Interproximal point goes through the interproximals onto the opposite side of the tooth. Cervical collar goes into the gingival sulcus. Interproximal wing aids us in shaping and manipulating. Pick up the matrix, double it in half, hold it as a U, put finger pressure, thumb and index finger, roll the plastic first in one direction, bring it back, roll it the other direction, bring it back to the original position, and you now have a U-shaped matrix that you can slide over a tooth. The interproximal points we're going to bend so that they wrap around onto the opposite side of the tooth. If we're working on the labial, we want the interproximal points to go to the lingual. And we'll bend the other interproximal point. And we'll place this on a lateral incisor that we might be going to add a direct veneer or some type of anterior restoration. Take a hold of the interproximal wing like any other matrix, two-handed, work it through the tight contact. The beauty of this 1.5 thousandths matrix, it slides through tight contacts. Then we'll bring the other side through, and once we have both of the interproximal wings through the contact points, we can take a hold of both wings with one hand, pull it down onto the tooth while stabilizing it with our index finger of our free hand, and then merely drawing the matrix up into the gingival sulcus, and there you see the matrix in position, ready to isolate your tooth. Next step would be to cut off these interproximal wings. The next step is to fix the matrix using a bis GMA light curable resin. This is Heliobond. I'll put a drop of it in the incisal corner. I'll wedge an instrument to help gain contact, and I'll cure that Heliobond for 5 to 10 seconds. And then I'll continue placing Heliobond around the gingival portion on the outside of the matrix into the incisal corner on the mesial. I'll again use internal spreading pressure to accentuate my contact, and I'll cure this Heliobond. I now have a fixed mold, and inside of this mold I can add my chemistry to do an acid etch technique. I would clean with the acid rinse and dry, place a dentin adhesive, blow it to a thin layer, do not cure it. I will then place a very small volume of flowable up into the gingival center. I'll take my paintbrush and I'll wipe that down into the margin area, being sure that I have sealed all of those areas where I wish my composite to form a periodontally acceptable margin. Now I take my heavy viscosity material and inject while watching it flow. Hopefully you'll be able to follow this as we can aim the composite to go up into the matrix. You see the position of my nozzle, and now watch as it slides up under the matrix. I'm using an excessive amount because it takes time for you to follow it. The next step will be to shape inside of the matrix, and the ideal instrument is a chisel-shaped ceramicist brush. And you can see how I can press the fine bristles of that brush right up into the gingival crevice, following my matrix band, pulling some of the material down off of the matrix band. I'm not going to finalize this shape that I'm creating. I just want you to see the working of the matrix band, the heliobond to fix it, the paintbrush to shape those very intricate areas around the margin. And then we'll cure this. I'll remove my matrix band and examine the results. I have found the ideal instrument for removing that heliobond fixating collar is a 7/8 Bates scaler. And whether it be here on this demonstration model or at the mouth, we merely slip the tip of that 7/8 Bates scaler underneath the heliobond and pick it free. And now I'll push my lateral out, and I just hope you can see the polished surface that's been created where the matrix confined the composite and created our margin. The shine you see is a higher gloss than we would see on tooth structure. The emergence profile, very acceptable without any additional changing while polishing. Here is the cured composite that I removed from the model, and I'm trying to show that edge, that fine edge that was produced first by the flowable going on to the etched enamel, and then the hydraulic pressure of the heavy viscosity material forcing it into that minute crevice formed between the matrix and tooth structure. And we, as dentists, I don't believe can hand create a margin as perfect as we get with this combination of matrix and technique.